Prince William and Kate Middleton's engagement announcement to a delighted global audience on November 16, 2010, was the feel-good news story everyone had been waiting for.
It's very romantic. There's a true romantic in that.
There is.
In the midst of a financial recession, it triggered congratulations from countries all around the world. It also marked the transformation of Kate into a new celebrity princess. For the first time in British history, a commoner would marry into royal lineage, changing the royal bloodline forever.
An awful lot of people reacted badly to the word commoner. And it is such a dreadful word when you think about it.
This was a true fairy tale in every sense of the word.
For the first time in centuries, a future king is going to marry a woman who is neither a member of royalty, a foreign royal house, or British aristocracy.
Now, in the lead-up to one of the most exciting regal events of the millennium, royal insiders reveal what really makes the young couple tick.
They have not been able to dig up a single inch of dirt on this young woman, and you know that they've been trying.
Kate is already eclipsing all these A-list stars like Jennifer Aniston, Gwyneth Paltrow. She's the one that people want to know more about. She's the one that people want to dress like, which is quite exciting.
He's definitely a Spencer in his appearance and in his character. He's got charm, he's got a readiness to laugh. That sensitivity, that Spencer sensitivity, speaks well of him.
I felt on the day when it was obvious that was the ring he'd given her, I felt that was his way of taking control of that narrative and taking control of that story. That's what I think it was. And, you know, he invited all of us to include his mother in his wedding, and people will, and they would have anyway, I think.
The big question is, who is likely to be in the frame as the designer for the wedding dress of the decade? Everyone who's everyone in the design world is going to be clambering over themselves to dress Kate Middleton.
This is the extraordinary behind-the-scenes story of Prince William and Kate Middleton's romance. Nearly 10 years in the making, it's sometimes funny, sometimes sad, but always fascinating. He is the United Kingdom's future heir to the throne and son to the most famous icon in the world. She is his pretty, stylish and educated young fiancée, the shining new star in the show business firmament. When William and Kate announced their engagement, they seemed very secure in their new status as future bride and groom.
We've all gone and it's just really easy with being with each other, and it's really fun, and I'm obviously extremely funny and she loves that, so it's really good.
And their family seemed equally delighted with the prospect of the most celebrated royal wedding in 30 years.
I'd just like to say that Carol and I are absolutely delighted by today's announcement.
So maybe we just ask your reaction to the wedding, please, sir?
Obviously it's thrilled, thank you very much. I'm practicing for long enough.
But the royal romance hasn't always been full of hearts and flowers. When Kate complained bitterly about press harassment, the young prince threatened the British press with legal action. In April 2007, the couple actually split up. But a few months later, and much to the relief of friends and family, a happy reconciliation followed. Since those problematic days, Kate has emerged as a stylish and admired fashion icon in her own right. Always the epitome of grace and style, she now frequently makes the best-dressed lists of high-fashion magazines like Tatler and Vogue. But how did this present-day Cinderella win her Prince Charming? A man with so much global goodwill towards him.
I mean, let's face it, he's probably the best catch in the nation, if not in the world. But Kate played a very smart game because she kind of went the friendship route, where William had a chance to get to know her, no pressure, no expectations, and that ultimately really paid off.
I've no doubt that one of the things that has attracted William to Kate is the fact that she's lived basically the life that he would have loved to have lived.
Kate was born Catherine Elizabeth Middleton on January 9, 1982 in Reading, Berkshire. Growing up with her brother James and sister Pippa, family life in the Middleton household is said to have been fairly idyllic.
And I think she had one of those childhoods where there was a lot of happiness, there was a lot of family feeling. And I think that that is what attracted William to her, the fact that she came from a happy family.
Let's not forget that Kate has two parents. Her mother's side is very humble beginnings, Durham miners, the working class. But Kate's father, Michael Middleton, comes from actually a very privileged background with several millionaires in his ancestral line. So although much is made of Kate's very middle class and even common upbringing, she comes from a moneyed family, a family that's inherited money that's been passed down generation to generation. And you know, certainly with 3 children in £27,000 public schools each, the Middletons definitely had a fair amount of an inheritance when Kate was born.
Further back in time, her maternal great-grandfather had come from working-class mining stock. There was little blue blood coursing through the Middleton family line, but tenacity and determination seemed to be there in plenty. Qualities some believe helped Kate in her waiting game for her prince.
Actually, Kate and her sister Pippa were nicknamed the Wisteria sisters at school. Fragrant, decorative, and very good at climbing. These are 2 young girls who always seem to be dating the most posh, the most moneyed boy, the most successful boy. And of course, Kate ultimately landed probably the best catch in the country.
Kate's mother, Carol, was quite clearly an ambitious young girl, growing up in Southall, which is not a salubrious suburb, where it's more or less like living under the flight path at John F. Kennedy Airport in New York. She could look up when she was a child and see the big glamorous airplanes landing. And she thought to herself, I'm going to be a flight attendant. And she ended up as a flight attendant, and she ended up meeting a pilot, and she ended up marrying him. And there's definitely ambition in the family of the best sort, a bootstrap operation. But they were not poor, they never were. He was always on a pilot's salary. But they set out to make their own company. Party pieces, they saw a niche in the market for doing mail order and internet sales of everything you need for a glamorous or successful children's party.
The fact that she's got a family who had a company called Party Pieces makes the public like her even more, because she does seem so down to earth. I think she got quite a lot of stick from it, from his friends at the very beginning, because they used to, when all of them used to go out to their nightclubs, I think some of his friends used to make the joke, doors to manual, when she walked through the door, which was a reference to the fact that her mum used to be an air hostess.
As Kate flourished in her happy family environment, Prince William's upbringing was somewhat less cosy. His arrival on June 21st, 1982, at St Mary's Hospital, London, sparked headlines across the world.
May we see your son, Your Royal Highness?
And a delighted British public welcomed a new future heir to the throne with open arms.
Your Royal Highness, may we see your Highness?
By now, his mother, Princess Diana, had become one of the biggest icons in the world, adored by millions for her compassionate nature and ever-ready shy smile. Prince William's brother Harry was born on September the 15th, 1984, at St Mary's Hospital, Paddington. The British throne now had an heir and a spare.
I remember saying to Princess Diana on one occasion when her son was getting taller and taller, I said, "You've bred some height into the royal family." And she said, "Yes, and good looks, and good looks." And what she was talking about was the introduction of her family, the Spencers, into a very tight royal gene pool. And the result was 2 good-looking sons.
By the mid-80s, Diana's blinding popularity had totally eclipsed that of William's father, Prince Charles. And by the time William reached Eton College, the most prestigious school in the country, storm clouds had well and truly settled over what had been the ultimate fairy tale.
The Prince and Princess of Wales are to separate. Buckingham Palace said the decision was reached amicably and the couple have no plans for divorce. The palace said no third parties are involved.
The stuff of fairy tale dreams had turned into a royal nightmare, but much worse was yet to come.
We have reports from Paris that Diana, Princess of Wales, has been killed in a car accident and that her partner, Dodi Fayed, has also been killed. They were apparently being pursued by paparazzi on 2 motorcycles. We have some of the latest pictures from the scene. This was the car that Diana, Dodi Fayed were travelling in. Clearly a horrendous impact. There's one of the airbags clearly visible in the front end of the car. The reports are that Diana has been killed. Dodi Fayed also died, as did the driver of the car.
There was universal sympathy for the young brothers. Their grief played out so publicly in the media spotlight. William was 15 and Harry only 12. And an unprecedented outpouring of grief gripped nations worldwide, nowhere more so than in the UK.
Yeah, I've no doubt that one of the things that has attracted William to Kate is the fact that she's lived basically the life that he would have loved to have lived. Safe, secure, middle-class upbringing, going to a good school, but not having any of those pressures of being a prince, being a royal on the shoulders. I mean, William's upbringing has been horrendous, as we all know.
Meanwhile, Kate Middleton's life was relatively free from care. She had enrolled at one of the UK's most expensive and historic schools, Marlborough College in Wiltshire.
Kate's young years were not entirely happy. Before she went to Marlborough School, she was at a preparatory school, and she was bullied, and she was very unhappy, and she became very thin, and she was miserable. And her mother and father were smart enough to realise that this was not doing her any good at all. And they looked around and they saw Marlborough, and it was a lot of money to send her to this school, but they decided that that would be the best thing to do.
The Kate Middleton that we see now is very different from a very shy, quite asthmatic schoolgirl who frankly wasn't sort of everyone's best friend. She wasn't the girl that everyone wanted to necessarily be seen with.
Kate was always seen as a very popular, bubbly schoolgirl who studied hard, got good grades, but was always well-liked. She was sporty. She played a lot of sports. And generally, they haven't been able to find anything bad. I mean, I think what's remarkable about Kate Middleton is that there has been so little that's come out of her past that's scandalous or some incident where she was rude to somebody or bullying. I mean, there's nothing.
She wasn't particularly popular at the beginning. The boys apparently, in the refectory, in the dining hall, as the young girls would come in, they would hold up their paper napkins with scores on for the girls, saying whether they were attractive or they were not attractive. And when she first arrived, rather thin, rather nervous, rather timorous, you know, they held up 1 or 0 or 2. Not very nice for a young girl, but she didn't complain, she didn't cry, she didn't asked to be taken out of the school. She got on with it and she became successful. And as she filled out a little bit and she got some colour in her cheeks and she became more assured, the attraction grew and she was a very popular person, but not in a pushy sense.
You won't find a single person from Marlborough, the school she went to, who has a bad word to say about her. She's sporty, enthusiastic, involved with people, friendly, academically successful. Don't you just hate her?
A ring of protection had been wrapped around the boys after Diana's death. The press had been told in no uncertain terms to leave William and Harry alone during their school years.
Well, after Princess Diana died, there was an agreement with certainly the British media where, with him and Harry, the British media would basically leave them alone, leave both of them alone. In return for that, every so often, we'd get given updates on where they were with their lives.
Now shielded from a press that many believed had caused the tragic death of Princess Diana, the boys began the painful journey of moving from adolescence to manhood, without the mother they had adored. As time appeared to be healing the lives of the shattered young princes, William was maturing into a shy but confident young man, who many believed reflected his mother's gentle nature and his father's dedication to duty.
Prince William, in many ways, is a lucky man, but I think one of the luckiest things is that he's taken so much from his mother's character. He's definitely a Spencer in his appearance and in his character. He's got charm, he's got a readiness to laugh. People don't realise, because Diana was so often so troubled, but she had a great sense of humour. She loved nothing more than laughing until it almost ached and she would bend over, almost paralysed with laughter. And he's got that readiness to laugh. He's got a good heart. He's full of goodwill. He wants good things to happen. And, he's found his way through a very difficult path very successfully. And I think the years he had with his mother when she was bringing him up, she gave him an understanding of what the world was really about. She gave him an understanding that he was immensely privileged. That sensitivity, that Spencer sensitivity, speaks well of him.
Prince Harry, however, was another kettle of fish entirely.
Prince Harry is somebody that's this lovable rogue. The British press can't get enough of him because he's this real naughty character, and you've never known a member of the royal family to behave like him. He's the one you can always rely on for making the biggest gaffes possible. He'll turn up to a party in a Nazi uniform, completely unthinking about what he's doing. He'll go to lap dancing clubs. He's always seen stumbling out of nightclubs looking very squiffy-eyed. You can guarantee he's the one that's probably the last person standing, the last person to have the drink. And I think there's something really appealing about that.
In 2000, Prince William decided to take a gap year before going to university and ended up teaching in Chile.
Around the fishing industry. I wanted to do something constructive in my gap year rather than, I could do quite a lot of work, but I thought this was a bit more of a way of trying to help people out and meet a whole range of different people from different countries, and at the same time helping people in remote areas of Chile.
He may have been born to a life of privilege, but in Patagonia no task is too humble for this future king. Cleaning the toilet floor was a weekly task for him during his rally expedition to Chile. These latest pictures also show Prince William preparing to cook porridge for breakfast. He admitted it wasn't a culinary triumph. But the prince was an instant hit with children at a nursery in the village of Tortel, where he's been based for the last 2 months. He says he chose to come to this remote land because he'd never been to South America, and the Chileans, friends said, were very hospitable. It's hardly been a holiday, though, the young prince doing a stint as a lumberjack, in which not everything went exactly to plan.
Yeah.
William shrugged off the setback.
And he walks out of this competition, head held low, not very happy.
The prince has also had to do the washing, with mixed results. I can still smell it, he said. He's insisted he's treated like anyone else on this expedition. That's meant sleeping in an old nursery classroom with 15 others and chopping up the firewood for heating and cooking.
My name is Will. I am a wombat. And then you try and make a noise that a wombat makes.
Giving lessons at the village school, he's shown that he's a natural with children. It's evident that he's inherited his mother's easy manner as well as her looks.
How am I going to remember that?
He's emerged from his gap year trip more confident and more relaxed than ever before.
The next rite of passage for William was to be university. But where would he choose?
The small university town of St Andrews had never seen anything like it. Prince William greeted like a local hero as he arrived with his father. Even before he'd attended a single lecture of his art history course, the student prince was a celebrity. He looked a little uneasy with all the attention, but didn't disappoint the crowds, some of whom had waited hours to see him.
Oh, you're the loveliest and
Welcome.
Thank you
very much.
William today came dressed in casual clothes, as if keen to get on with his student life and eager to step out of the media spotlight. St Andrews is home to some 6,000 students, 2/3 of whom come from state schools.
Prince William, how are you looking forward to your first term?
Looking forward to this term?
I am very much, he said.
William and Kate met as freshers on the art history course, and initially their relationship was purely platonic.
And at university, their life was normal to the nth degree. William didn't live in a great big palatial house on the outskirts of town. He rented a house with some friends from the university, became this very tight inner circle of which Kate was obviously a part.
They used to hang out in Tesco's, they used to go and have their dinner parties, just like any normal student does. Kate and William, when they first met, they clicked pretty instantly. He thought she was quite attractive, but to start with, they were very much friends and they bonded on their kind of mutual appreciation for art history. They were both doing the same course, so they'd chat about that. They would, you know, spend evenings just kind of sipping wine, having picnics in the summer, so it was all very, very low-key.
At one point, William wanted to quit St Andrews, but his father intervened and once again reminded him of his duty and position.
From Prince William's point of view, his decision to go to Scotland and study at St Andrews was quite quickly became a bit of a nightmare for him, and he very, very nearly dropped out in his first year. And, you know, I mean, to the point at which he'd spoken to his advisors, he'd sort of said, I don't want to be here, I don't want to continue with this course. And, you know, again, this was in a period when the press gave them the space that they needed when they were in education. But I think it's quite clear with hindsight that his sudden interest in Kate Middleton, shall we say, resurrected his desire to see his degree through at St Andrews.
But one social gathering in particular can be pinpointed as the moment where the platonic relationship blossomed into something altogether more tantalising.
Yeah, the story that's become the stuff of legend now, a moment in English history, was when Kate Middleton, as a young undergraduate at St Andrews University, walked out taking part in a charity fashion shoot, and there she walked down the catwalk to a wide-eyed Prince William at the end, and she was wearing, and those pictures obviously exist, but she was wearing, leaving not an awful lot to the imagination.
I don't know what William was thinking that day in the front row at that fashion show, but it would certainly be hard not to have attracted his attention. She walked out in basically a bra and knickers and not much else, with a very free-flowing hairstyle, lots of curls and flowers in her hair. She looked beautiful, young and fresh and natural, and she really got William's attention that day. You know, for all that has been said about Kate's somewhat dull, maybe somewhat pedestrian personality, the girl knows how to get attention when she wants it, and she did a really good job that day of getting the attention of probably the one man whose attention she really wanted.
Does it occur to you that it's somewhat inappropriate for a future Queen of England to have been photographed in?
It does, but back then I'm sure she had her reasons for wearing it. We still don't know whether she was put in it or if she chose to wear it, which I like to think she chose to put it on because she thought it might be a bit of a showstopper. It's a part of history now, but yeah, I don't think she'd been seen in it now.
And the dress, yours for perhaps £10,000.
Legend has it that that's what finally nailed William and made him decide that he was a young girl worth some more attention. William and Kate at university, this is a prince, but he was wooing his girlfriend by cooking her spaghetti bologneses and sitting in old jumpers. Very, very normal stuff. And I think that's fundamental to understanding the wedding, understanding this sort of fairy tale romance. It was built from a period of normality.
When I was trying to impress Kate, I was trying to cook these amazing fancy dinners, and all that would happen was I'd burn something, something would overspill, something would catch on fire, and she'd be sitting in the background just trying to help and basically taking control of the whole situation. So I was quite glad she was there at the time.
William fell as much in love with Kate's family as he did with Kate. You know, the Middleton clan is a very close-knit unit with 3 very happy, well-adjusted children and a parental unit that's very strong. And William would often come for Sunday lunch with a very typical British menu with her family, and after lunch sit in front of the fire, maybe even resting his head on Mrs. Middleton's shoulder. Very much William was treated as a part of the family, and I think he fell in love for the first time really with the idea of belonging to a typical English family.
It seems the royal romance was allowed to thrive because of a deal struck between Prince Charles's private office at Clarence House and the Press Complaints Commission.
They would spend time walking in the park, not fearing a photographer in a hedge. And while pictures were taken, newspapers agreed under this special agreement that was made after Diana's death not to actually publish those pictures. So there was no market. You cannot underestimate how important that has been in their relationship. William met Kate at university when he was in that period of being left alone by the media, out of the public light.
Film crews were banned from the university, and then news broke that caused serious embarrassment to the royal family. And it came from a very unlikely source.
There was a terrible time when the media literally I mean, to the point where we wouldn't even set foot in St Andrews, and wouldn't even go there if we had a relative that was graduating. It was that sensitive, and then all of a sudden it emerged that a film crew was there following William around, and who should be behind the whole thing but Prince Edward. Let's just say after a rather heated discussion with Prince Charles, that filming project ended quite quickly.
When journalists working for Ardent Productions were spotted by the young prince himself, trying to film him as he left a lecture. According to the university's rector, there was even a scuffle when they refused to leave. The Earl of Wessex owns the company, which initially denied the intrusion, insisting it had been given permission to film. But then later came a guarded apology. Ardent claimed it had no intention of breaching the privacy arrangements of the prince, and said the company unreservedly apologises if the activity of the production team has put those agreed arrangements in doubt. There's no doubt this incident has been hugely embarrassing for the royal family, and it raises questions once again about their business interests. It's said that Prince Charles now wants the Earl to choose between his production company and his public duties.
And in early 2005, further embarrassment emerged to haunt the royals when pictures were published of Prince Harry dressed in a Nazi uniform at a fancy dress party. It caused outrage across the world.
In January 2005, I ran a story about Prince Harry, a picture that we got of Prince Harry going to a party, actually with William, and he was wearing a Nazi outfit. It created a huge stink. And when I saw William in Switzerland during a skiing holiday that we were doing an official photo call on, he bent my ear about that story, but he accepted that what Harry had done was wrong. There is something very special with William and Harry, that they are extremely close. And anything bad for Harry William will stick up for him to the nth degree.
It is amazing how close we've become. You know, I mean, ever since our mother died, obviously we were close. But he is the one person on this earth who I can actually really, you know, we can talk about anything and we understand each other and we give each other support and everything's fine.
You got off the ground yet?
I've just got off the ground, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Thanks for asking. Well, it is still hard work, but I'm better than William, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Prince Charles had lost nothing of his contempt for the press, particularly the British court. And only a few weeks after Harry's faux pas, he made one of the biggest mistakes of his illustrious career. In March 2005, on a skiing trip to Closters, and in front of a worldwide press corps, he forgot that his radio microphone was open, and his derision for journalists and the paparazzi soon became clear for all to witness and to hear.
Well, it's a very nice thought, isn't it? I'm very glad you heard of it anyway. Bloody people. I can't bear that. So...
The slopes of Closters were to prove something of a landmark in the royal love story. That same trip, Prince William was asked a very probing question about his love life, and his rather dismissive response made headlines all around the world.
So, Prince William, romance clearly in the air here. Could there be another wedding perhaps on the card sometime soon?
No, I don't think so.
In April 2005, William took the decision to take Kate Middleton, his new girlfriend as she was then, on the skiing holiday with her father and with Prince Charles in Closters in Switzerland. Now, of course, the fact that 2 years in a row, suddenly this pretty brunette that we didn't know anything about was being brought on a holiday again with Prince Charles and William, that caused massive media attention. There was a frenzy, frankly, and just about every skiing photographer across the Alps rushed to Closters to try and get pictures of Kate. On that holiday, I met up with William and Kate and Harry in a nightclub in Closters quite late at night, but we had a long chat, and William wanted to know, quite bizarrely really, I thought it would be obvious, but he wanted to know why all of a sudden there was just this enormous media storm around his little skiing holiday in the Alps. And of course I found myself in a position where I was having to explain to William, who I'm sure knows better than I did, that we were naturally interested in a girl that frankly can be a future Queen of England. And you know, I think he understood it, but I think he wanted me to tell him. And it was at that time that he laughed. I remember him laughing and just saying, well, I don't know what the fuss is about. I don't want to get married until I'm 28 or maybe 30. And I'm naturally not likely to forget those words, but it's quite interesting now that 5, 6 years on from that chance meeting in a nightclub, and actually he was giving me a scoop.
William and Kate's graduation in 2005 was a lively affair, with the story once again making global headlines.
You don't know much about their relationship.
Grappling with the press seemed to be the name of the game for the royals in 2005. Later that year, Kate Middleton complained via her lawyers about press harassment.
Prince William and Prince Charles, their lawyers, stepped in to try to do anything they could to protect Kate Middleton, to try and stop her being pursued and being public property in the way that obviously towards the end of her life Prince William's mother was.
By now, both princes were in long-term relationships. Harry with South African-born Chelsea Davy, and William with Kate. They started partying on the London nightclub circuit and generally living like any normal 20-somethings. Unfortunately, as heirs to the throne, William and Harry were often in the public spotlight, and Prince Harry in particular really resented the intrusion into his very private and party lifestyle.
Become more resilient over the years to press reports, or do they still upset you?
They still upset me and I still read them. Why, I do not know, but I have to read them just for peace of mind, just to know what they've written and to see who wrote it and see who took the photographs, you know, write that down for later. No, I mean it's not. I don't think it's really a case of dealing with it. I don't know if you can deal with it. You just get on with it. There's no particular method. I don't read a paper and go and then sit in the corner and meditate and think. Just sort of try and think about something else. But
I know you don't want to sort of have a whinge at the press in a way, because I know that you realise it's part of who you are to have interest in you. But it's not just you that is affected. It's obviously anyone you're with, particularly a girlfriend, your girlfriend. How do they react? Do you feel protective towards them?
Hugely protective, and I would be very concerned if I wasn't protective. Obviously, it is part of my life. It's something that is part of the baggage that comes with me, and she understands that, and my friends understand that as well. But I think it's fair to say that is something that comes with me, but also the lies isn't something that comes with me. That is something that I probably shouldn't be talking about, but it's something that happens, you know. That is, I suppose that is the media in general. There's truth and there's lies, and unfortunately I can't get the truth across because I don't have my own column in the paper, which I'm thinking about getting. But girlfriend-wise, you know, it's my private life, so it's a different story. But yes, I am very, very protective.
Kate and William embarked on post-university lives. Like most young male royals, William did his army training and later joined the Royal Air Force, where he learned to fly, something that was to become a burning passion for him.
Guys, you are clearing for the trucks, please. We don't need a marshalling.
Thank you. Sir, can I just ask you, how's life in the RAF?
Very good. Enjoying it very much.
Very different from the army?
In certain ways, yeah. Otherwise, it's still the same sort of camaraderie and everyone getting along really well.
Now, I understand you flew your first solo flight yesterday.
I did, yeah.
How did it go?
Well, I'm still here to tell the tale, and I haven't been billed for a plane, so far it looks all right. But it was one of those experiences whereby I thought it'll never come around, and I thought, hopefully a bit longer yet, and I'll get my practice. And the next thing I know, my instructor jumps out and goes, "Go on, get on with it," and I was left there sort of looking around the room and going, "What?" So I just did it, and once you get up in the air, it was fine. It wasn't so bad.
But for Kate, it wasn't so easy finding her feet after St Andrews. She joined the English retail chain Jigsaw for a while, but soon gave it up. It seemed her mind was elsewhere.
My sources say she spent most of her time there out in the parking lot on her mobile taking calls from William, or if they had a fight, she'd come in tears. She was already very much about the relationship. And then there was a stint where she was going to study photography. There were reports that she was going to study with Mario Testino, who's a big friend of the family, and he denied that. That never happened. Then she went to work for Mom and Dad, probably the safest career move, because nobody could say anything about the hours when she actually showed up or didn't show up, and she could kind of base her entire life around being William's professional girlfriend. I think this kind of thing got her the nickname Waity Katie, because a lot of young women felt that she'd really sublimated any life of her own to run around like his lackey. And yet, the job description of William's wife, or William's fiancée, is very much along those lines. And I think Kate was showing the royal family and William that she was ready and willing to do what was required of her to fill that role.
William's Army and Royal Air Force training began in real earnest. And on his passing out day, a proud Kate was there to see her man get his stripes and show her support. But the next chapter in the royal love story came as something of a shock to the world, not least to the British press, when in April 2007, William and Kate split up during another skiing trip, this time to Zermatt.
I think, looking back, it was clear that the pressure of the engagement was really getting to William. And they had been written about just a few days before that their pictures were already on tea towels when it was announced that they'd broken up. A lot of royal insiders say that William and Kate never really broke up. It was more to kind of get the public to back off a little bit and give them some time and space to figure out what they would do. But they were always in touch throughout that time, and even snuck off a few times to some country pubs to spend time together. They didn't ever stop being in contact, but I think there was a time when William was really evaluating whether or not it was fair to keep Kate waiting around, or whether or not he knew he was going to marry her.
Everybody assumed that Prince William and Kate Middleton were going to get married. They were going to stay together forever. They'd been together for a substantial amount of time. And then when they split, it made you realise just actually they are human beings. They're going through a very public breakup. There was pictures of Prince William cavorting about with some girl in Bournemouth near Bovington where he was in the army. And you just thought, Kate Middleton must hate this. And she's got to remain dignified throughout. I don't think then anyone expected them to actually get back together because you thought they'd split up for a reason. So when they did get back together, you knew that it was serious stuff.
Prince William said that he'd been concerned about the pressures and whether she truly, he wanted to be sure that she truly understood what it is she was getting herself into. So the inference was that he had said, let's give this time, let's give this space, for now it's over, you know, and see what you really think of it. And I thought what was really, really revealing was that she said, when she let him have his say, and then she said, I wasn't very happy about it at all.
It was very much trying to find our own way, and we were growing up, and so it was just sort of, you know, a bit of space and a bit of things like that, and it soon worked out for the better.
And I think I at the time wasn't very happy about it, but actually it made me a stronger person. You find out things about yourself that maybe you hadn't realised.
Ironically, the reconciliation came about at a very sensitive time for William, the 10th anniversary concert in memory of Princess Diana's death. Ever the discreet consort, Kate sat in the row behind William at the concert. But the press took it as a sure sign that the couple were once again dating. The royal couple's romance continued to flourish amidst stories of William getting his knuckles rapped for exploiting his position in the Air Force. Apparently, he'd been flying unnecessary missions at great expense to sometimes surprise Kate.
Prince William had a real love for flying, the skill that he'd obviously learned as part of the RAF. And that really showed his adventurous side. He just couldn't get out of the planes, the helicopters. But one thing he didn't consider, of course, was the fact that the British press would be tossing up the amount of journeys that he was doing in his flight and saying, this is public money, you shouldn't be doing that. There was a rumour, actually, that he'd even flown a couple of times and landed in Kate Middleton's garden just to surprise her, which really is quite a romantic thing to do. I don't think most people would complain about that, but obviously the press saw differently.
They continued to enjoy nights out in the town, often in the company of Prince Harry and his on-off girlfriend Chelsea, and their favourite haunts were among the most stylish in London.
They were often seen either with their girlfriends or without them, you know, on the London nightclub scene, and they got drunk, and there were tales of raucous nights and huge bar bills, and, you know, some people said it was a sign that they were going off the rails and criticised them, but, you know, young men in their 20s having a great time, so what? You know, it's not going to kill anyone, is it? And you get the feeling that for Harry that's an ongoing scenario from time to time, but that William necessarily understands now that he has to be more circumspect about that kind of thing.
Kate and William do go to nightclubs where anyone can go, you know, places like Mahiki or Bougie's. But at the same time, they tend to surround themselves with a very large crowd of very protective friends who are from a very close-knit set and who they trust. You know, Raffles in Chelsea is one of Kate's favorite places, but it's a members-only club. It's a very posh Sloane set, and I think she feels relatively safe when she goes there. I mean, you're not going to see them, you know, popping into just any nightclub on a given night, but they're very careful. I mean, Mahiki, for example, is part owned by one of William and Harry's good friends, Guy Pelly, so they're careful about kind of where they go and when they go. And when they do go, I know, for example, with Prince Harry, they have to call ahead and make sure there's enough security at Bougie's. They go in a separate entrance. You know, these nightclubs take care of the royals because they're very happy to be associated with those names.
William decided to propose on a trip to Kenya. He had always adored Africa, and this trip was to celebrate passing his RAF search and rescue course, which had been particularly difficult and demanding.
Flying himself into the land his family have worked for generations. Ian Craig's plane touches down in Lewa, the romantic hideaway Prince William chose to make his proposal. Acutely aware of William's desire for privacy, family friend Craig played host to the couple when they wanted to come to Kenya.
Of course, Prince William is a close friend of ours, and we've known Kate now for several years. And they're a couple like Jane and I, like anybody in the world, that are in love together, they love each other, they're just the warmest people in the world.
Despite being guests in their home, he claims he and his wife Jane knew nothing about the engagement until yesterday.
Jane was massively emotional. I was massively proud. We were both massively proud. But just, for Kenya, for William and Kate, but for all of us, for the world, the implications of a lovely new wedding at this level of two such special people really meant a lot for us.
It may be that the exotic beasts of Lewa were the only living creatures to witness the moment William took the ring from his rucksack and placed it on Kate's finger.
We were out there with friends and things, so I really didn't expect it at all. I thought he might have sort of maybe thought about it, but no. It was a total shock when it came, and very excited.
If Kate didn't see William's question coming, then I would question her entire... I don't know what planet she's been living on. I mean, frankly, everybody was waiting for the moment. I recently found out through the palace staff that they were convinced that this was the holiday where William was finally going to pop the question. They were all on standby to announce when they got back, but for the fact that Kate's grandfather was very, very ill and actually died a couple of weeks later, they would have announced it weeks and weeks earlier than they did. So if Kate didn't see that coming, then I find that rather hard to believe, but I'm sure she has to say that.
We've been talking about marriage for a while, so it wasn't a massively big surprise, but I took her up somewhere nice in Kenya and proposed.
It's very romantic. There's a true romantic in that.
There is.
I'm sure it was very romantic. I'm sure he got down on one knee, but I know it's very private, very, very private. It's how they wanted it, and it was personal to them.
And you produced the ring?
Yeah.
There and then?
I did, yeah. I'd been carrying it around with me in my rucksack for about 3 weeks before that, and I literally would not let it go. Everywhere I went, I was keeping hold of it, because I knew this thing, if it disappeared, I'd be in a lot of trouble. And yeah, because I planned it, it went fine. As you know, you'll hear a lot of horror stories about proposing and things going horribly wrong. It went really, really well, and yeah, I was really pleased that she said yes.
But as in most families, a skeleton in the cupboard or black sheep emerged as something of an embarrassment to Kate. It appeared in the shape of her mother's brother, her uncle, Gary Goldsmith, who sometimes lives on the hippie rock and roll island of Ibiza.
Like all families, the Middleton family is not without its skeleton in the cupboard. I mean, the royals have Fergie, so it's only fair. You know, Kate has Gary Goldsmith. He's an uncle of hers. He's a big partier in Ibiza. There were all kinds of headlines and scandals about his drugs use, maybe selling drugs, all kinds of tattoos. Really not the kind of person that you expect to be connected to a royal.
He's got Nouveau Riche tattooed on his back. He's allegedly been involved in all sorts of underhand dealings, drugs, not something that you really want the royal family to be part of. But Prince William still went out there with her to Ibiza, which you can't imagine in the first place, and stayed with the uncle. And apparently the uncle has got an invite to the wedding, which is going to make it very interesting. And you can imagine the press are going to have a field day. But it does, again, bring that couple back down to the ordinary level. Everyone can relate to having someone in their family that they're a bit embarrassed by.
As with everything, Kate took it all in her stride. But is she really as demure and long-suffering as she appears to be?
To my mind, I think the basis of the relationship is respect. She has never been a dog's body or a doormat. She's always fought her corner. Somebody said to her, "Aren't you very fortunate to be going out with Prince William?" And she said, "No, he's very lucky to be going out with me." And she was, even though she came from several steps down the social ladder, She never considered for a moment that she was a lesser person. And I think she's a very mature person, almost very motherly. She has never got into terrible scrapes. I'm sure she's had drinks and she's enjoyed herself, but there's never been any whiff of scandal about drugs or things of this nature. And you can bet your life that the British tabloids would have found it if they could possibly have done so.
And I think that the country is incredibly lucky to have somebody like Kate being, you know, the new member of the royal family, because she is just a lovely, lovely, genuinely kind girl. And so I think that she has absolutely got what it takes, because she's discreet and she's lovely. She's incredibly lovely to talk to. She's got a wicked sense of humour. And I know that this, plus obviously the deep love that they have for each other, will carry them through any storm that the world cares to throw at them.
She's definitely very tenacious, which is, you know, a good thing really. And I think, you know, a lot of girls can probably really relate to her. People have called her Weighty Katie because she's been waiting 8 years for her prince to propose to her.
And what is Prince William really like?
It's astonishing when you do get the chance to sort of speak to William and see how he carries himself in public, how well balanced and mature he is.
Prince William has got such a solid kind of grounding really in the eyes of the press. I think the press and the public really admire him. They think he's very grown up. He had to grow up very quickly, particularly after the death of his mother. He's definitely the mature one between him and his brother Prince Harry. And I just think there's a great deal of admiration and respect for him, yet people feel that there's a connection with him. It's not like he's one of those members of the royal family who seems so distant from the public and so far removed. He genuinely seems like he really cares about the public.
Is Kate likely to become the same kind of style icon that Diana was?
Kate, whether she likes it or not, is going to be compared to Diana in terms of being a fashion icon. I don't think she has got quite the same flair for experimenting as Diana possibly did, but there's no doubt, you know, she's marrying the heir to the throne, so there's all sorts of designers who are going to be desperate for her to be wearing their clothes. So she will learn to develop her own sense of style, and she'll learn to love fashion perhaps more than she does already, just because it's going to be falling at her feet.
Kate doesn't have the same kind of charisma, maybe, or X factor that Princess Diana has. She certainly doesn't love the camera the way Diana did. However, Kate's beauty, her elegance, and her innate sense of what looks good on her is going to take her very far. She's already been voted the best dressed on many lists, and I think that's only going to continue as she finds her feet.
And what about William's controversial decision to give his new bride Princess Diana's engagement ring? The more superstitious claimed it was unlucky, but William had no such qualms about his decision.
It is a family ring, yes. It's my mother's engagement ring. So I thought it was quite nice because obviously she's not going to be around to share any of the fun and excitement of it all. This was my way of keeping her sort of close to it all.
You know, I think a lot of people were astonished that William gave Kate Diana's engagement ring because of the fact that she had had such an unhappy marriage and died so tragically. I mean, it would have been understandable to give Kate the ring, but as her engagement ring that she wears every day, I think people were surprised. What it does show is that despite the bad luck that some people might say, it shows that William has such a sentimental place still in his heart for his mom. It shows how much he loves his mom, and he wanted his mom to be a part of that very special day. What's interesting is that it fit Kate perfectly. There was no adjustments needed on that ring. It was like it was made for her.
And he said, I want my mother to be part of this, to be present. Not in a sinister way, of course not the ghost at the feast, but there to enjoy the celebrations and the fun of it all, of a great occasion.
I felt on the day when it was obvious that was the ring he'd given her, I felt that was his way of taking control of that narrative and taking control of that story. That's what I think it was. And, you know, he invited all of us to include his mother in his wedding, and people will, and they would have anyway, I think.
Prince William will rarely ever talk about his mother publicly. He will very, very rarely do anything to kind of draw comparisons with him and his mother. And certainly he hates the thought that Kate might be seen as the new Princess Diana.
It's about carving your own future. No one's going to try and, no one's trying to fill my mother's shoes, and what she did is fantastic. It's about making your own future and your own destiny, and Kate will do a very good job of that.
Of course, if he decided to go down to the local jewellers and buy a little engagement ring, then he would be accused of airbrushing Diana out of history, and certainly Prince William's never going to do that. His mother is still the most central figure in his life.
Reactions to the news of the royal engagement were varied, some predictable, others less so.
Well, it's the most brilliant news, and I'm just so happy for both of them. They are so happy, and it's wicked.
So maybe we just ask your reaction to the wedding, please, sir?
Obviously thrilled, thank you very much. Practicing for long enough.
As you know, Catherine and Prince William have been going out together for quite a number of years, which is great for us because we've got to know William really well. We all think he's wonderful, and we're extremely fond of him. They make a lovely couple, they're great fun to be with, and we've had a lot of laughs together. We wish them every happiness for the future.
I was given the news in a cabinet meeting. I was passed a piece of paper and announced the news in the middle of the cabinet meeting, and there was a great cheer went up and a great banging of the table.
One thing's for sure, Kate Middleton's marriage into the royal family will change things. But how will she cope living within the boundaries of one of the oldest dynasties in the world?
Kate will do her own thing, she will establish herself in her own way, and I think she will be a queen consort for the modern age. I think we're going to see a British royal family that is scaled down to some extent. I think some of the stuffiness and starch will be taken out of it. I think that there will be immensely good leaders in this particular context, and I think they will blow a breath of fresh air through the rather stuffy corridors of Buckingham Palace, and I think they will do extraordinarily well.
It's inevitable that the British monarchy will change depending on who is at the helm, and I just think this really fresh young couple are bound to do it differently.
One of the best kept secrets in any royal wedding is always the dress designer. At Princess Diana and Charles's wedding in 1981, Elizabeth Emanuel's frou-frou powder puff creation remained a secret until the big day itself.
If you look back at Diana's gown, it wasn't Diana, was it? It wasn't a great dress. And we read reports, didn't we, years later, that she didn't think so either. It was an odd thing, really.
There was just so much media interest and all wanting to know what the dress was going to look like, and of course we couldn't say anything, but every night they would rummage through the rubbish to see if they could find bits of fabrics or threads, and we used to leave bits of different colour threads and things just so, you know, so they put them on the wrong track really, and we had to put blinds up so that people couldn't peer through the windows, and we brought in security guards, and probably a bit overzealous with it, or we probably didn't need the giant safe we got to put the dress in it every night, but you know, we felt really didn't want to risk it, and we even had a spare dress hanging up just in case somebody did discover the secret.
Who will make the dress will be very lucky to do it. He's got a wonderful figure to dress. She's as thin as a pencil. She's very attractive, she's tall, she moves properly. She walks in a way that is regal without being obviously so.
Everyone who's everyone in the design world is going to be clambering over themselves to dress Kate Middleton. She's hotly tipped to choose a UK designer, which would make a lot of sense.
Bruce Oldfield, British designer who Diana favored as well, is definitely the front runner who is believed to be designing that dress. Kate's mother and sister were actually spotted in Bruce's very fancy shop the other day, and Bruce himself came down to talk to them, which he never does. So that really increased speculation that he's working with Kate and her family to dress her and probably her sister for the big day.
I know Bruce very well. I don't think he's going to design the wedding dress for the simple reason that he's talking about it. If he was going to design it, he wouldn't talk about it. But I do believe that Bruce Oldfield will probably design Mrs. Middleton's outfit. I think Kate Middleton has enough courage and individuality to choose from all over the world who she wants as her designer.
Issa, the designer Issa, because she's worn quite a few Issa dresses. The blue engagement day dress was by Issa. It was a day dress, obviously. But who knows? I think they'll go British. I think they'll have to go British, won't they? So we'll see. Maybe it will be Bruce Oldfield. But it's bound to be stunning. I mean, you just know she's not going to get it wrong, don't you?
Honestly, I've got no idea, and everybody asks me these questions. At the end of the day, it's down to Kate Middleton, who she wants to go to. I don't even know how essential it is for it to be a British designer. Honestly, I've got no idea.
It's going to be such a closely guarded secret because she's not going to want anyone to know until her big day. Even Victoria Beckham has been mentioned in the frame, which would be quite an unusual one. I'd be surprised if she chooses Victoria Beckham, but I personally would like it if she did.
The one thing I keep reading is that it will definitely have sleeves. It has to have sleeves, apparently, and I suspect it will, because it's a formal royal wedding. It's not just some beautiful girl who wants to look great and wear a strapless dress. You know, it will be. I imagine that the fashion writers are correct when they say that.
Could be Stella McCartney. She comes from a family of music royalty. Her father, Paul McCartney, obviously knows the royals very well, so that could be a distinct possibility.
I think you're going to see something that maybe Audrey Hepburn, at her peak, dressed by Givenchy, might have worn. It will be simple, stylish, and very, very attractive to both men and women. And one could not ask for more in a royal bride.
With Diana, you see, she was very young when we got introduced to her, and fashion was not one of her big interests, so she hadn't really got her own sense of style. But Kate Middleton does. She's worked in fashion, and she knows what suits her. So she's probably got a very firm idea in her head of what kind of dress she might want.
And what does the ultra-critical British press believe the prospects are for William and Kate as a young married couple?
I think Kate and William have a good chance of making this work. They are both very committed to the monarchy and making kind of a united front, whatever personal problems they might have. Kate has proven herself to be a team player. She's proven herself to be discreet. She's also proven that she's willing to put her own interests behind the interests of her husband to be. I think also they've been together for 8 years. They've seen each other through a variety of circumstances, and William seems to be doing a much better job of preparing Kate for royal life than Charles did for his mother. So Kate has a support system in William. She has a support system in her family, which Diana also didn't have. And she has a man she's known for 8 years, and she spent an awful lot of time getting to know. I think they've got a good shot.
Their relationship it grew out of cold winter nights spent in a university digs having spaghetti bolognese and talking about anything other than being a prince or princess, king or queen of England. Their relationship has grown out of being just William and Kate. And I think that that's something that throughout their married life, as much as they can, they will try and retain. And if they do, then the prospects for them staying together for a long time will be very good.
I know that he desperately wants a happy family life, and I'm sure that if they get the breaks, that will come through. And that will make them as popular in the 21st century as the Queen Mother was in the 20th century. I think people will recognise that this is a royal couple for the modern age.
They like the quiet life, really, which is perfect for somebody who is going to be running the country. He's not going to be getting in as much trouble. He'll leave that to his brother, Harry.
With William now happily working with his RAF squadron in Anglesey, a remote part of Wales, day-to-day life for the royal couple is said to be quiet and sedate, very different to previous royal generations.
There's a secrecy pact about the exact location of William and Kate's married address in Anglesey, but he is currently a search and rescue pilot with the RAF based at an airbase right out on this little island at the top of north of Wales. He has rented a property there, and we're quite limited in what we can even say about that property to not identify it. But he's going to live there without any servants, without any domestic staff. That means that when he finishes work, Kate will presumably have cooked the supper. Anglesey, with the best respect to Anglesey, is not the kind of place you would associate with a young prince and his new bride. There aren't an awful lot of things to do there other than perhaps walk a dog, or really that's probably it. So yes, they want to live in Anglesey for the first 2 years of their married life. They will retain an address in London as their official sort of residence, but essentially they're harking after the normal life.
This is the royal romance that has captured the hearts of millions. Now at last, Prince William appears to have found true happiness with Kate Middleton, an ordinary girl descended from a poor mining family, who remarkably today finds herself in line as a future Queen of England. Their courtship may have taken a little extra time to get there, but now their commitment shines for everyone to witness. With so much global goodwill behind them, Prince William and Kate Middleton enter the future with high hopes and expectations, and a universal outpouring of support, wishing this young royal couple all the love and luck in the world.